Welcome to another video from Laravel Academy. Today in this, you go to our current version of our Laravel blog. You see that we just have something here that says Laravel 5. So what a root is it allows Laravel to pick up the address here. So if we had, for instance, if we had view/5, this route would need to be mapped to a function in our Laravel application. This is the exact same if we had auth/login. We would want this URL to be mapped to our authentication code. Now by default, as I said, Laravel comes with a default route that shows us Laravel 5. Let's take a few minutes and look at the routes that we will be using in our application. Currently we will have a view and a listings for our homepage. In authorization we'll have login and logout. And for our administration, underneath blog, we're going to have listing, create, store, edit, update, delete, publish, and unpublish. Now by default, all of Laravel's routes are stored in app under HTTP, then in a file called routes.php. Here you can see that we have a default route that Laravel has predefined for us. If we change this to a simple return and refresh our home page, we should see the change happen automatically here. Let's go back to Chrome and give this a refresh. You can see that we've changed the final function of this route. Let's start by changing our routes file to match some of the routes that we are going to define here. First, we'll start off with our home page. We're going to change the route that came with Laravel to listing. Now if we go back to Chrome, we want to make sure that this works, so we have to use add/listing. You'll see our function hi there returned. To prove that this route works, we could have listing 5, and you'll see that we have a HTTP exception, which is basically saying the route was not found. So we can change this to listing 5. If we come back and refresh, you can see that now our route is found. So what we're going to do is start setting everything up here. So let's head back over to Sublime and make some more changes. When working with routes in Laravel, we don't want to have to refer to /listing5 in this example every single time that we want to refer to this page. We can use what's called a named route. Let's go ahead and clean up some of this code. And let's start off with the home page. So I'll make sure that anything that just comes to slash is going to be accepted into this route. And we're going to name this one home. And we're going to say it uses a specific controller, which we have not created yet, but it will be the home controller. And the action that I want it to go to, or the function, is called index. We're going to be making this controller later, but let's finish setting up our home routes. You can see that we also have view. So let's go here and just copy and paste this below. We're going to change this to view. We're going to make sure that we pass a slug in, and we're going to change the name to view, and let's also change the function to view. We'll keep it in the home controller for now. The next thing we really need to do is create these home controllers. Since this is our first time, let's use PHP Artisan. Let's use the make command controller, and let's say home controller. Once this command has been successfully completed, you can find the controller underneath HTTP. It'll be inside controllers, and you see that we have a home controller here. Now by default, this controller, because we made it with PHP Artisan, comes with a whole bunch of boilerplate. I'm just going to go ahead and remove this. You can actually either choose to keep it or just follow along. Now that we've removed our boilerplate, let's start adding some functions. We'll have a construct function, and inside this we can choose to run any middleware. Right now we're just going to leave it empty. Our next function, we're going to need one for index. And if you remember, if we go back to our routes, you'll see that we have an index. We also have a view. So let's make another function for the view. In this function, we're accepting a slug. So I'm just going to write some simple return statements to ensure that we are in the correct function. So I'm just saying I am accepting the slug, and I'm going to return I am the home page index. Alright. So if we want to test these routes, we can come back to our blog and we can refresh. See that we're on the home page. We say view, random. I am accepting the random. And random is the slug here, so we can change it to anything we want. And it'll just display on the screen. So we know that these two routes are working. So let's move forward. With our home routes out of the way, let's tackle our auth and administration. First, we'll start off with auth. The auth that we are going to be using is the default auth controllers. Now, to keep everything clean, I like to create a new folder just called routes. And inside there, I'm going to store all of these sub-routes. So I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it auth_routes.php. Now this routes file is going to act pretty much the same as our routes.php. The only difference is we're going to have everything that has to do with authorization in here. So what we need to do is we need to create a route group. And we're going to have a prefix, and the prefix is going to be auth. So what that is telling us in Laravel is anytime that we go to our website, so say we have /auth/whatever, that auth part is the prefix, and it's going to fall back into this route group. So anything that's predefined in here is going to be captured. I'm also going to give it a namespace just to save some time. So this means that the namespace is going to go into controllers and then auth. So anything in this route group is going to be captured with the prefix of auth. So let's go ahead and let's start with our first route. So we're going to auth/login, and we're going to name it as auth.login. We're going to use the auth controller. We're just going to give it the default, which is getLogin. Now since we're done this route, let's just copy and paste it a few more times. So let's change this one to logout. And we need to remember that we need to change the name to logout. We also need to change the function call. And the function call that we need to call is getLogout. The final thing that we need to do is update this route to make sure that's a post. And we can almost name everything the same here. The only thing that we need to change is we need to change the auth controller, the function post-login instead of getLogin. To keep things simple, you can even change auth.login to auth.login.post. And just to have a little refresher here, anytime that you make a URL request to auth, so you say this login, so example.com/auth/login, depending if it's a post or a get, it's going to run the specified function within the specified controller. Now that we're done with the authorization routes, let's move on to the administration runs. So I'm going to right click, say create new file. I'm just going to name this one administration routes.php. Now to save some time, I'm just going to copy in the entire file that we have for auth routes. Just paste that right in. And I'm going to change the prefix from auth to administration. And I'm also going to change the namespace because we want it in a different folder instead of auth, so I'm going to also change that to administration. Now the nice thing about Laravel is we can nest these different groups. So I can take a copy of the group function here. So I want to basically say is anything that's in administration/blog, I want it to fall within this function. I'm just going to change the namespace, clean up this routes file, and we'll start adding in our own routes. Let's just finish cleaning up this route here, and anytime that we fall within, say, example.com/administration/blog/something, whatever it is, we want it to fall within these two route groups. So, for example, we're going to use listing as an index. So anytime that we're in administration/blog, we want to fall in here. So I'm going to change the name to administration.blog. We're going to make sure that the function we call is index, and the controller that we're going to call is blog controller. Before we get too far ahead, let's go and make the new the new folders underneath controllers. So we're going to use administration. In there, we're going to also make a new folder called blog. Just doing this so we don't really forget here. Let's go ahead and let's create a blog controller. So we're just going to make a new file, call this blog controller.php. And what we can do is we can just copy in this home controller. Just copy and paste this in. Now let's just change a few things. We need to change the namespace because we're further down the tree. For our controllers, administration blog. So let's add that to our namespace. Administration blog. The next thing we need to do is we need to change the class name from home controller to blog controller. This always needs to match the file itself. Finishing cleaning up the blog controller, let's change the index to say I am the blog controller index page. And let's remove the view function. Let's go ahead and save this. Now, right now, if we were to switch over to a web browser, we tried this route right now, so /administration/blog, we should get an error. So let's switch over to a web browser. Let's actually type that in and see what error we get. Now, we have a not found exception error. And that's because we have not told Laravel that these routes exist. Now to do that, it's pretty simple. In our routes.php, all we have to do is we have to do a require once, or you could do an include. And we just have to say, require routes / and our two files. So we can do administration routes.php. And if we come back and we refresh, you can see that we are now returning I am the blog controller index page. To make our auth routes work, let's just copy that line. And let's change the file name from administration routes to auth routes. So now that we've included all of our routes, let's finish up here. Let's look at the routes that we need. So in administration, we currently just have the one. We need to do create, store, edit, update, destroy, publish, and unpublish. So all this really is copying and pasting the route that we have and changing the name from index to create and changing the function. So let's speed this up and see what it looks like in the end. So you can see here we're just copying and pasting our routes and adding any IDs that we need. So we do publish, unpublish, and they're both going to accept an ID. Now anytime that we're using an ID, because we know that we want to accept a number, we can add a where statement on our route. And we can say where the ID followed by regex. So we're going to make sure that whatever ID we have is a number, and it's going to be one or more. So we can copy this and we can add it to any time that we're going to use the ID, such as publish and unpublish. So let's go ahead and just copy and paste them in. And now let's check over our routes and save them. So to test this out, what we can do is if we were to go to administration blog /edit, we want to make sure that this route works. So in our blog controller, let's make a new function. We'll just call it edit, and then it's going to accept an ID. In here we're just going to say return and got ID. Pretty simple. So if we switch over to our web browser, say administration blog /edit 7, you can see our function says got 7. Now if we change the 7 to a word such as Laravel, you can see that we have a not found exception. This is because in our routes file itself, we're explicitly telling Laravel that the ID basically needs to be a number. This is very helpful for validating. Now that we have all our routes that we need for our project, let's start moving on to the next video.